Welcome back to the High Vibe Life Podcast with me, Moira Casaba, and you guys are in for possibly, I think, a treat today. Kind of the inner workings of my mind on a morning walk. So let's start out with this thought. Have you ever had periods of your life, days, moments, maybe months, maybe years, where you just kind of feel blah, like that life should feel a little bit more exciting, that there should be more to life, that you're just kind of in a little bit of a rut? I'm not talking depression. I'm not talking a big downward spiral. And usually it's just everyday life. Everyday life starts to feel just redundant, right? We're just kind of going through the paces, doing the things. And so often we think, gosh, I need a spark. I need some excitement. I need to do something fun with my life. And the reality is we don't have a time problem, but we've got a misalignment problem, right? We're busy. We're doing a lot. And at the end of the day, so often it just doesn't feel meaningful. Why is that? Well, here's what I think. It's because most of what we're doing doesn't actually fit into the things that makes a life worth living. So today, I'm going to give you a simple filter that I've been using. There are only 5 buckets that make a life meaningful. And I'm telling you, if it doesn't fall into one of these, you're wasting your time and you're doing things that just don't add up to a quality life. And it's slowly wasting your life. So I'm going to go back first. And I can remember this like it was yesterday. I was newly sober. I was living in San Diego, California. So I was probably about 22. And, you know, when you reawaken to life, you really get a little spiritual, a little bit deep, a little bit reflective. And I would just remember at that phase, right? Like you're kind of out in the real world for the first time. I just remember thinking like, what is the point of all this? Like, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of life? What are we here for? What actually matters? And I can remember a few things. I remember my dad really raising us with the idea that life was all about family and giving back. That's kind of the foundation that he gave me, right? And those are really good answers. So life is about family, your relationships, and giving back and making an impact. I think we can all kind of agree to that. I also had a magnet at the time that said something to the effect about life is about people, your relationships, and experiences, right? What you're experiencing in life. And gosh, I can remember my 22-year-old self was like, oh, epiphany. Like that's what we're here for. Relationships and having these experiences in our life, whatever that looks like, right? But I've grown, I've evolved, I've built businesses, I've raised kids, I've gone through some really hard seasons. And I know that it's deeper than that, right? Life isn't random. And on this walk the other day, it was kind of on the heels. So it was a Monday morning after a great weekend. And I had gone to a really great concert on Friday night. It was a Brandon Lake concert. Brandon actually was our, believe it or not, this is crazy. People like are shocked when I tell them this. Brandon Lake was our worship leader, like the last 10 to 15 years in our church. It's so amazing that we got him before he became like the biggest Christian artist in the world. And so Friday night was this Friday night that just felt different, right? It was spiritual. It was this massive connection to God and 12,000 people in the stadium. It was just like, gosh, it just felt so good, right? It wasn't a Friday night going to a gala where it's kind of just like, hey, what's your name? What do you do? Surface, surface, surface. Like it was deep. It was fulfilling. It was just so good. And then right after that, I went and visited with a friend that had had surgery. And I see this friend, you know, all the time. We get together and do fun stuff. We go to yoga. We do all things. But this meeting with her was different, right? I was at her mom's house. She was laid up. We got coffee and I brought some green juice and we just visited. We just visited in a different way that felt more meaningful. And so I'd had those two experiences. And I think there was like one of those afternoons we went for a long walk on the beach with the dogs, which again felt really good and meaningful. And as I was taking this walk on Monday morning, I thought, man, there's kind of these buckets that whatever you're doing, if it doesn't fill one of these buckets, it just doesn't matter that much, right? So I kind of went back. It made me think about when I was 22 and I'm like, relationships, right? The first bucket is relationally. What are we doing in our life relationally? How are we spending our time relationally with our family, with our friends, with our spouse, even with our community? What's that connection, right? Because nothing can replace people. Not success, not money, not achievements. And if you're winning everywhere, but relationally, you're losing. So think about bucket number one being your relations, relationally, right? What are you doing in your life? How are you spending your time relationally? That's bucket number one. Bucket number two, going back to that concert, was spiritual, right? Those spiritual minutes that you spend, moments that you spend, hours that you spend, they just create such deep meaning in your life, right? It is time well spent. Whether you're in a stadium with 12,000 people worshiping or you are on your couch in conversation with God, that's like our anchor, right? Without that, for me, everything feels shaky. Even if it looks good on the outside, it feels shaky if that spiritual connection isn't there. So we've got bucket number one, how are we spending our time relationally? Bucket number two, how are we spending our time spiritually? And then, that long walk on the beach, physically. How are we spending our minutes and our moments and our time and our hours physically, right? Again, there's this feeling of like contentment and like even accomplishment, right? When you've done a good workout or you've gone for a walk or you're doing something, taking care of your body. And that could even be a massage, right? It could be recovery. It doesn't have to be, a hardcore workout, but your body is the vehicle for everything else. You don't get to live this high level life if you've got a low energy body. So think about how you're spending your time physically. The fourth bucket, recreationally. This goes back to the magnet on my fridge when I was 22 years old about experiences, right? I think about, that concert. That concert really to me was spiritual. It was relationally because I was there with my spouse and a bunch of other people. You could even say it was physical because I was dancing the whole time, singing and worshiping, but it was fun. It was recreation, right? It was joy. It was an experience. It was play, right? And this is where most women, especially in midlife, shut off, right? We become productive, but we stop being alive. And this bucket is where you actually get to feel your life. So how are you spending your minutes and your moments recreationally? And then lastly, financially, what are we doing, right? How are we impacting the world with the work that we do that we earn income from? And we know that money isn't everything, but it does touch almost everything. And when this is done right, it actually fuels every other bucket, right? I am lucky enough to do work in the world that brings me joy and experience, that I physically get to fly and go to great places. It is absolutely a spiritual conversation a lot of times with the work that I do. And of course, it's relational, right? I'm not just sitting behind a computer, working numbers or something like that. There's so much relation that comes into my work. But if we think about our life, and I thought so much and so clearly on that Monday morning walk about, I really spent so much time that weekend in those buckets. But the flip side is, man, how many days and how many weekends slip by with hours upon hours upon hours of doing, but not moving in any of those buckets, right? Maybe I'm not having enough fun. Maybe I'm not moving my body enough. Maybe I'm not connected enough to God. And a lot of us are actually good at doing all of these a little, right? We usually work a lot. We check the box on our workout. We spend 5 or 10 minutes with God in the morning. We maybe meet a friend for coffee for an hour. But think about your time, you guys. We have so much more time that we can spend in these buckets. So I'm just going to recap them: relationally, spiritually, physically, recreationally, and financially. Ask yourself where your time is being spent. So do maybe like a little time audit process, right? I always like to take what I'm learning or take what I'm kind of having these epiphanies around and go, okay, great awareness, but now I actually need to do a true assessment. You can simply take out your calendar, right? And track your time. Write down everything you do, or just, like I said, look at the calendar, look at it hour by hour, no judgment, just awareness. And think about what those buckets are, right? Step 2 would be assign each activity a bucket. Where does this serve me? Is it serving me relationally, spiritually, physically, recreationally, financially? Maybe some things are 2 or 3 in the same. And then tell yourself the truth, right? So often we're scrolling social media. We can say, it's for our job. It's what we need to be doing. It's helping move the financial, needle forward. Or maybe it's joy. But guys, is it really that joyful? Are we having that much joy scrolling social media? Or are we usually doom scrolling, comparison scrolling, right? Living our lives through other people's lives when we could be out there spending time with a friend, going for a walk, worshiping, doing whatever that is that really, 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 really lights us up. And then let's make some decisions and plan some stuff into our calendar where we get to reclaim our life. And instead of saying, I don't have the time, start choosing the things that matter and don't matter, right? Take out the things that don't matter, change those, or fill the gaps with the things that matter. Because the moment you see it and you get clear on your own calendar, you have the power to change it, right? So here's your call to action. I want you to do this time audit process. I want you to write out the buckets. I want you to look at your calendar, and I want you to see where maybe you're skimping on a bucket. And I want you to go ahead and do 3 things. Plan 3 things, whether that's coffee time with a friend, a walk on the beach, a yoga class that you're going to sign up for today. I mean, guys, I walk by sometimes and I see people doing yoga on the beach. I live at the beach. I'm like, why am I not doing yoga on the beach? Why am I not signing up for that? Right? Why am I working out in my gym by myself? Like, of course, I actually love to work out in the gym by myself, but not every day. Like, how cool would it be to go out there and do yoga on the beach? There are so many life experiences where we have the opportunity to connect relationally, spiritually, physically, to have more joy, right? A meaningful life is not built by accident. It's built by what you allow to take up your time. So ask yourself these questions. Take a hard look and start to align your time into these buckets that actually matter. Do this for the next 48 hours. I would love to hear back from you. I would love to hear what this teaching and what this little time audit process meant for you, shifted for you, what you signed up for, what you scheduled into your life. Because, like I said, a really great life takes intention. It takes planning. And I know that there is so much more joy for all of us to have. Share this episode with a friend. Tell me what you thought about it. And I will see you next week on the High Vibe Life podcast.